I hate Charlie Kirk. I think he's actually a Satan spawn.
Destiny, I have a question for you. Why do you think in your campaign for everyone to dial down the temperature, why do you think that mocking the grieving widow of Charlie Kirk when she posts an image of her at the coffin side, why do you think that constitutes turning down the temperature?
You can't turn down the temperature on your own. The president of the United States is not able.
You're mocking his widow. You're mocking his widow.
We've had multiple political assassinations over the past year. What do you mean it's turning up the temperature?
Why did you mock his widow?
Online
Why did you mock his widow?
Because she's being used as a political weapon right now for conservatives to continue their fight. What do you mean, wow? She's literally doing
her husband just got murdered
on email. Yeah, she's using it to drive up recruitment for
and you can't even condemn the murder. You won't condemn it.
Can't even tell his side.
You're so deranged about Trump that you cannot condemn the murder.
So, fellas, and my hard R fellers that have joined the channel, I know you've heard the terms psychological projection, gaslighting, and wail out in pain as they're striking you before, but I promise you, outside of a severely abusive relationship, you haven't felt the gravity of these tactics until what I'm about to show you. Destiny is about to blame Trump and Republicans for what happened to Charlie Kirk. Remove how you feel from what he says. His intent is to antagonize you as much as humanly possible right now. Just view it as antagonization. We are going to turn tragedy into strategy. Do not allow Destiny to radicalize you into physically doing anything. Allow him to radicalize your spirit and your soul. I want you to know what you're up against, and I'll say it 1,000 times. This is why you have to be right-wing. This is the moderate left that we're about to hear, which is Destiny and a Canadian named Dev who did the whole anti-communist routine, didn't go right-wing, and now he's firmly back on the left, debating a centrist conservative and a woman that left the left and voted for Trump. What you're about to hear is a conversation between what is, by the standards of the Overton window, considered to be a debate between the moderate left and moderate right. Call your mom down to the basement, tell her to put the nuggies on hold, make sure she brings the industrial strength Velcro helmet to you, place it on your skull, because things are about to get pretty tarded. Because Destiny goes into full victim mode and acts like the right is trying to make the left go extinct. I'm not joking.
By trying to be civil, you shouldn't subject yourself to extinction.
Like what kind of
civil war is
better
than extinction, right? What do you mean? What kind of a solution is that? It's up to the other side. You can't choose to have both people go to civility. That's not a choice that one person can make. One person can choose to either fight or be made extinct.
That's the
because
answer.
The alternative is just extinction.
That again just feels like just extreme hyperbole to me.
What do you mean? What part is extreme hyperbole?
Asking for a disavowal at this point. At this point, we've accelerated, and now we aren't just. I'm not disavowing it. It's like they're coming to kill us all, and we need to get ready for war. Is what you're saying on my panel? They're coming to make us extinct.
That's what the right is saying, and I'm saying we should be ready for it. People have bullshit themselves into thinking, largely because of the Republicans who have mind raped everybody, that civil war is the worst outcome. Civil war is not the worst outcome. The one-sided extinction is the worst outcome. It's not good. All of this coming from one place. They never asked that side to turn it down, only the other side, because they want to see the other side made to go extinct. That's what their goal is. That's why their rhetoric is like this. Nobody would do anything different if they had that goal, so you should treat it like that.
In what universe is Destiny not inciting the right to violence with this unabashedly ridiculing rhetoric after the assassination of Charlie Kirk? We already know how he feels about the Trump assassination attempt, and now we hear how he feels, and what he says, after a very prominent conservative Christian who was, by every metric, the symbol of civil debate on the right when engaging with the left. They will dance on your grave and mock you after your death, no matter what you've accomplished and what good you've done for this world. This is the most psychological warfare in all of human history, with the internet adding to it. The left is so low on right-wing violence, they're begging you to do something. I mean, they made George Floyd a martyr while we were locked down. Pro athletes were wearing the names of degenerate career criminals. It said racism in the end zone of Madden. Statues were erected of George Floyd. Murals were painted of him. But Charlie Kirk is just some racist schlub that got shot in front of everybody. Those are equivalent things to the left. So let's get into the debate, shall we? Let's start off with Dev.
It's time for the streets to run red with the blood of everyone. Let's go! Hi, how's it going, guys? I'm just fucking around.
What are your thoughts here?
My actual thoughts. Okay, so there can be no real reconciliation unless the right deals with its own violence. And that's kind of weird to say when it was a right-winger who just got killed, but it is nonetheless the truth.
Looks like we have the "what was he wearing" argument. What was he wearing where he deserved what happened to him? Did he deserve that to happen? Well, it's the right's fault. This is up to the right at this point. Huh. How does that make any sense? We don't even necessarily know a motive yet. There's a lot of speculation going on. I'm ignoring all of it. But somehow we know that the right has to do something. Okay, pussy. Let's move on to Destiny.
Destiny, what are your thoughts here? Political violence and what we do about it.
Yeah, we have a leader right now, the United States of America. His name's Donald Trump. If anybody has the responsibility to turn down the violence, it probably should be him, especially given that he's the one that pushes a lot of it. Seeing Charlie Kirk get exploded on Streamable over and over again is exactly the type of stuff that Republicans push for. It's exactly the type of stuff they want.
You see, fellas, Charlie Kirk being assassinated in front of the world and his family is exactly the kind of stuff the right pushes for, and exactly the kind of stuff the right wants. Why, if I didn't know any better, I would assume Destiny is operating in bad faith and just trying to antagonize the right into violence. But violence is barely radical now. It's passé. Violence is cheap. When I say I want this to radicalize you, I don't want this to get lost in the media cycle. I don't want this to just blow over. I don't want this to be forgotten about. I want it tattooed on your fucking forehead. I want you to listen to this at the gym to give you that extra rep. You don't always decide your input, but you always decide your output. My output is comedy and analysis. I want you radicalized with determination. We can argue with each other once the war is over. Until then, this is what you're up against, and this is what they want to happen to you. And by you, I mean just voting for Trump.
You said, did you vote for Donald Trump on all 3 times?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you watch Charlie Kirk's neck explode when the fucking blood came gushing out after he got shot?
Yeah.
Do you accept that you voted for that?
No.
Okay, then you're fucking delusional. There's no reason to have this conversation.
Because
I don't know why. Why are we talking about the radical left right now when the president of the United States, a guy who has done violent rhetoric over and over again, who has pardoned every single person that he can that's involved with violent crime on the right, you voted for this. This is what you wanted. This is what you want. This is what you voted for, and this is where we are now. Why the fuck are we talking about the far left? I don't give a fuck about Hassan of the far left right now. The leader of the United States, the ex-leader of the free world, I don't know what the fuck the United States does right now, will not disavow violence. When the people on Fox and Friends are begging him to disavow, he won't do it. Why the fuck are we talking about tankies?
I guess I just reject that we're pinning this exclusively on one person. I think you can understand this is a much broader problem.
No,
we can agree. We can agree.
Not.
No, hold on.
I'll say you're just
we can agree Trump may have the biggest impact as being the president. I'll agree with you there. But this is just such a bigger problem than any one individual
it's not.
person.
The problem is Donald Trump. That's the problem. He's signing off on the violence on the right. There's a reason why 7 out of 10 of the largest protests in U.S. history have happened on his watch.
That's right. It's Trump's fault that the tankies are in the streets killing people and lighting buildings on fire. Well, who was president when the commies were doing that? Probably the enemies of Trump, and who the commies viewed as an enemy, Trump. Trump was. And so, I mean, what should Trump do about that? Should Trump, I don't know, send in the National Guard then to make it so they don't protest?
When Donald Trump is deploying the National Guard to D.C. for crime purposes, when Donald Trump is using the National Guard against governor's consents in California, he's sending the Marines down there. They're not allowed to deploy the National Guard without the consent of the governors, but they did it in California anyway.
Okay, so once these massive protests happened, you would be against Donald Trump sending in the National Guard. So how would he have prevented these protests? For George Floyd, they said this police killing was racist. In the trial, race never came up at all whatsoever. There's no proof that any of it was racist. So how is Donald Trump supposed to prevent people on the left thinking something was racist when there was no proof it was racist? Do you feel like a really toxic girlfriend's gaslighting you right now? There's no winning. You're not supposed to win. you're supposed to be demoralized and bend the knee. What knee you're supposed to bend? Similar to the knee that the Democrats bent for the commie revolution that was happening. You know, the tankies that he didn't want to care about.
Why the fuck are we talking about tankies?
But how nefarious is what Destiny is doing? Let me explain. Let's go back to a debate Destiny had with a Trantifa from 2021 revolving around the far left's lies and rhetoric of calling everyone fascist, literally leading to the Kyle Rittenhouse incident.
Ideological narratives don't even bother to look at the facts of the case. The reason why 2 people are dead in the Rittenhouse riots is directly because of people like you that stoke the flames and get people upset about policing in the United States over cases where the police were 100% in the right. You are engaging in a form of stochastic terrorism when you were on here stoking these flames. That had already had an outstanding warrant for like 3rd-degree sexual assault, that had already penetrated his ex-girlfriend with his fucking finger, that had showed up at his house to steal her fucking car and her fucking children, okay? When he was on his way out, the police got a call, they showed up, they wrestled with the guy, they tried to tase him 2 times, okay? The guy managed to get away from the cops and was running towards the car that had the keys in it, had a knife in the passenger seat that multiple people testified to, and I think had children in the back seat. Finally, the cops fired on this guy when he got in the seat and tried to drive away. That's what happened, okay? This is the Jacob Blake incident.
Yeah, Destiny. I can't believe commies were pushing this dangerous narrative that the Jacob Blake shooting was unjustified. It was clearly a justified shooting, and acting like it wasn't was just stoking the flames of an illegitimate protest. We should really condemn the communists for their lies and incendiary rhetoric that led to people protesting in Kenosha, in which Kyle Rittenhouse showed up and, under the hand of God, shot perfectly even after clearing a jam in the gun. Why, even Wikipedia clearly states that Kyle Rittenhouse shot 2 people fatally amid protests following the police shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha. It would have been nice if the National Guard came in so civilians didn't have to feel obligated to combat the lawless chaos themselves. The tankies are clearly responsible for this.
See pain, hurt, and destruction in the aftermath of yet another black man shot by police. Jacob Blake shot 7 times in the back in broad daylight in front of his 3 young sons. 7 times in the back in broad daylight in front of his 3 young sons. As Vice President Biden put it, the shots fired at Mr. Blake pierced the soul of our nation.
Ooh, Destiny, we're seeing some huge overlap with the radical communists you were talking to and mainstream Democrats you wanted everyone to vote for, with your accusations of stochastic terrorism that led to people dying. Well, dip me in shit and roll me in breadcrumbs. But this was a very politicized event, okay? I don't think it really permeated the culture of the nation.
There was more than basketball certainly on the minds of the Milwaukee Bucks, players and coaches and the organization as a whole. After the Jacob Blake shooting in Kenosha, Wisconsin, Blake, 29 years old, shot 7 times in the back by police officers in Kenosha.
For this next part, I want you to imagine being Jacob Blake's girlfriend, catching his digits, and calling the police for a domestic violence call in which he tried to kidnap the kids, and you want to just get away from it, so you turn on TNT, and this is what you see.
But the Bucks released a statement praying for the recovery of Jacob Blake. The last report I saw was that he was in stable condition in the hospital. Wow. Shot multiple times in the back by a police officer at point-blank range in Kenosha. Our hearts go out to his family and friends. We stand firmly against reoccurring issues of excessive use of force and immediate escalation when engaging the black community.
Like I said, you're supposed to look at the police to protect and serve, and now it's looked at harass or shoot. To almost take a man's life, especially in front of his kids that wasn't resisting, and is back at point blank range is a heartless and gutless situation.
People are starting to see why, black people, colored people are so, afraid of police, because at any time, no matter what type of position and no matter what they did, right or wrong, their first act is to shoot us.
I love how Malumbo Middleton over here catches his lines at the last second, and instead of saying people of color, he says colored people.
Black people, colored people are so...
If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. The left is not smart, they are not clever, they just have power. From the communist on the street to the Democrat in office. Anyways, that's how nefarious Destiny is. He has no moral foundation, he has no limiting principles, and when I say he, I mean anyone claiming to be a moderate person on the left. There are no moderate people on the left. If you want to be moderate, you have to be right-wing. Let's go back to this debate with moderate people on the left. I just showed you with Jacob Blake how the left has the conclusion they want, and they will find anybody to justify it.
They have the conclusion that they want, and they will find anybody to justify it.
Damn, I'm good!
They want violence, and they're going to say the left is causing violence. If it's not me, they'll find some random Twitter account. If it's not some random Twitter account, they'll find some random Blue Sky account.
Oh, Destiny. Not all the Vivans in the world will allow you to spurg through all of this incoherent gibberish to obfuscate the fact that you know exactly what you're doing, you watched it on the left, but you're a Coomer gremlin, a sex and drugs hedonist, which you can only do on the left. That's why there's so many bad people on the left, because that's where you're allowed to be a horrible person.
Repent, and thou shalt be saved.
They do this even with irrelevant shit. What was the Sydney Sweeney shit where all the right-leaning people were like, oh my god, the left is freaking out about this. And meanwhile, no one on the left even fucking cared. They could fabricate whatever issue they want. Today, I just learned that it was apparently 25 million illegal immigrants that came in when I thought it was 20 or 15 and 10. And who knows what the investment is up to now. And now the stock market matters and it didn't matter before when it was going down. Like every single thing that conservatives are doing are just putting this false reality in front of the eyes of their constituents. And you're saying, well, if we just turn the temperature down, these guys can't even perceive a temperature. How could we turn it down? How would that even matter? It hasn't helped at all so far.
Because I'm not trying to appeal to those crazies. I'm trying to appeal to the normie electorate, which does make judgments based on these things, based on the signal to noise ratio, right? When the signal to noise ratio is mostly noise, then a lot of them just disregard it. I don't think the Sydney Sweeney thing had a big effect on the normies.
The crazies are about half the country right now.
I disagree. I do not agree.
You're just wrong. Donald Trump won the popular vote in the last election after trying to insurrect the government.
Not everyone who voted for Trump is part of this crazy cohort, though.
So it sounds like Destiny thinks everyone who voted for Trump is MAGA and culpable. Culpable for what? I have no idea. But you see, when Biden talks about MAGA Republicans in an incendiary way, he doesn't mean all Republicans.
I seem to recall back to the Biden Independence Day speech, which I agree was not as bad as people make it out to be, because he puts this caveat in there where he's saying, oh, it's not the whole Republicans, it's not the whole conservative movement, it's just those MAGA Republicans. And seemingly putting that caveat in there was enough to kind of quell people, or I guess get folks on the left to think, oh, look, he's not calling for violence. It's just those crazy MAGA Republicans.
So, I watched the entire speech and I've read the transcript and I can link it to you. He's explicitly talking about people who deny the results of the 2020 election, a belief that over 80% of conservatives hold today. It is fucking insane, and he was 100% correct in his analysis.
And so you're saying there's a world of difference there then between Biden when he clarifies and says, oh, I'm just talking about MAGA Republicans, but then when Trump says, I'm just talking about radical left Democrats, they're saying that's different. Those clarifications?
Biden was talking about people that were denying the outcome of the election. When Donald Trump says radical left Democrats, he's talking about every Democrat in the United States of America. Biden explicitly said afterwards, I don't even think the majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans. But he was explicitly talking about people that denied the results of the election, which is a view that most conservatives, a huge majority, hold today. That's absolutely corrosive to our democracy.
It's trickle-down communomics, except their currency is lies. Just like with Jacob Blake, Democrats position their rhetoric in a certain way that's palatable yet critical. It alerts their moderate base, like Destiny, who fully supports the Democratic Party, then makes it more extreme by applying MAGA to everyone that voted for Trump. The less influence a person on the left has, the more extreme they get to be with their speech. And by the time it hits the streets, violent communist extremism happens.
Oh, but Destiny cares so much about our democracy.
How does violent political intimidation pair with a democracy, Destiny? I watched you in 2021 because you were calling it out in the far left, but now I have to swallow you whole. Now let's watch moderate Democrat Destiny TOS talk about ending Orange Man. What do we think the even more moderate, even more centrist host will say? Let's think of the pushback that somebody more moderate on the left could possibly have for implying that we should assassinate Donald Trump.
So then if we're at the point though where it's extinction, it's fight or extinction that you're saying this is the left, the only two options on the left right now, I guess just direct question, is someone justified in killing Donald Trump?
We're not gonna do Fed. I'm not Fed posting right here. We're not doing that. But if we were on a different platform, maybe we could do a little bit of. I already got like 20 FBI agents. Who's watching all my shit all the time. So
it's hard to have this conversation without at least in a video game or hyperbolically or something discussing this. And I understand.
Delicious. And this is how the moderate left pushes back against a direct call of assassination against a sitting president. Every laugh is a cry. Now, I don't know if you're aware of the left making fun of Tim Pool for saying there's going to be a civil war for the last 5 years, and that's in reference to the left constantly encroaching and not wanting to just exist. Sure, they say they want to just exist, but they want to indoctrinate your kids into thinking they're the opposite sex to the point where they need puberty blockers while flooding the country with millions of illegal immigrants. But sure, they just want to exist. Let's see how Destiny rationalizes the civil war apparently currently happening.
It seems to be you're playing along. You are helping them do it.
Was the North helping the South when they wanted to go along with secession and the Civil War?
No, but we are not in a situation we are at civil war. We are not there.
Not yet! But the president is deploying the military to cities and tweeting memes about it.
So that's
what
civil
is that
war,
if
though?
not a comment? Definitionally, yes! What do you mean? The President of the United States taking the military and using it for law enforcement measures against radical leftist Democrat mayors? That is definitionally civil war.
You heard it right from the gnome's mouth. You defending yourself against radical leftists is civil war. That's the definition of a civil war. The left minimizes, permits, and encourages violence in the streets to destabilize the country, then plops a fat dump in their diapers when the current administration does a common-sense right-wing solution. One of the few functions of the federal government is to step in when a state or city is terrorizing its citizens with crime, especially if they're radical leftist mayors. There are no moderate people on the left. If you want to be moderate, you have to be right-wing. But let's start to end it here. Who would you guess is to blame for the cultural rot in society?
Now they're destroyed Republican economy.
Is obviously separate to the severe cultural rot in our society, and
that's caused by conservatives. They are rotting the culture and showing you the cultural rot they want to talk about. That's why prior to the election, every American in the country, people in fucking Michigan and Pennsylvania are worried about illegal immigrants, and now the problem is magically gone.
Oh, that's rich. That's good. I like that one. Destiny, the man in current litigation for sex crimes, not to mention he has a 14-year-old son that the world can see is completely neglected by his internet habits, wants to lecture you, the right, on how the cultural rot is your fault. But that's not even that stupid. He's acting like Pennsylvania shouldn't be concerned about illegals when New York has the 4th highest amount of illegals, and that's a bordering state. And Michigan shouldn't care about illegals when Illinois has the 6th most illegals, which is a bordering state. You shouldn't worry about anything. You're crazy. Can you believe this guy is single, ladies? Who on earth is a moderate voice on the left? Every single mainstream Democrat has a caveat with the Charlie Kirk assassination. I don't think it should have happened, but he said some mean things. I'm sorry. Did we have any of those qualifiers with George Floyd? Were we ever allowed to say, George Floyd shouldn't have died, but, and then a series of objectively true statements? Like he was a career criminal, and he was on fentanyl while having COVID? No, that's racist. Charlie Kirk? It's racist of you to not let the left call him racist after he was assassinated. A word is defined by its usage, and it only goes one way with racism, fellas. Elevate your consciousness. Evolve. Rise above. and allow destiny to radicalize you. Become made of stone. Be confident. The mocking will continue until morale improves. Charlie Kirk will always be alive in our bones and our advocacy for a cohesive society driven by an unshakable, impervious faith. Have a good one.